Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Inside the Lion's Den. This is a new podcast focused on Moroccan football, specifically the national team and its players. And today I have joining me Enes, who many of you may already know from the Moroccan Fantasy Podcast. Welcome, Enes.
Thank you, Mr. Saad. Thank you for having me in your first episode of your podcast about the Moroccan football team, which we all love and we all want to learn more with you, inshallah.
Inshallah. So for today's podcast, I think the best way to get started is with the current international break, talking about Walid Regragui's squad list, the selection, as we have two fixtures coming up, one tomorrow on Friday against the Gabon, and then another on Monday against Lesotho, both of them being AFCON qualifiers for 2025. Regardless of the result, we will qualify as the host nation. So
we are there.
We are there already, but
we need to be competitive, right?
We do.
Yes.
There are still FIFA rankings to consider, and most importantly, ironing out the details of who the starting 11 should be and where every player should be as far as a positional standpoint. So let's get started with that.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so I'll go ahead and I'll read through the squad list by position. So starting at the goalkeepers, we have Yassine Bounou, Mounir El-Kajjaoui, and Mehdi Benabid. Any surprises there?
Goalkeeper position. I'm not surprised. We have the best goalkeeper in the world, if I'm not exaggerating. But Yassine Bounou is definitely one of the good goalkeepers. Mounir El-Kajjaoui was our savior in the Olympics, if you remember. My only concern here is their ages. And I want to ask you, what do you think of like the long-term plan for goalkeeper position?
Yeah, and that's a great question. Both Bounou and Kajjaoui are getting up there in age for sure. I think Bounou is about 31 or 32 years old. But I think, we go with the steady choice. And over the years, through the World Cup in Qatar and beyond, Bounou has proven to be our best option in the net. And I think Regragui trusts him a lot, as do we, I think, as fans of the Moroccan team. I don't think we would want any of those other players to start in front of him. I think it's also worth calling out, goalkeepers tend to have longer careers, right?
That's true. Yeah, I agree.
Just looking at three different goalkeepers who have played well beyond their 30s in World Cups, you have Oliver Kahn, Fabien Barthez, as well as Gianluigi Buffon, upwards of 40 years old, starting in World Cup fixtures. So I don't think there should be any reason to discount Bounou just because of his age. If he's healthy, if he's in form, and he's our best option, then I think that's who we should put in the net.
Right. My comment wasn't about like discounting Bounou, but it was more about who do we have to prepare for next generation after Bounou. And we're not talking only here about the 2025 African Cup, but what's beyond, like the World Cup 2030, for example. But as you told me in your podcast, you want to follow the Moroccan players. So do you have any idea of like any young goalkeeper? Maybe that's something we will scout throughout this journey of this podcast.
That's a great question. I don't at this particular moment, but you've given me some motivation to do a little bit of research.
The guy that we have here is Mehdi Benabid.
Okay.
He is quite young for like a goalkeeper. He's 26, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he's 26. He played for the Moroccan what is it? How do you say it?
FAR. The Forces of the Army Royal?
Yes, الجيش الملكي. And he's young, 26 years old. So do you think, as he's been called to be in the selection, do you think we're going to see him for some minutes?
I don't think in these two fixtures coming up we'll realistically get a glimpse of him in the net. This is the first I've heard of this player. I think Bounou and Kajjaoui are going to be the two goalkeepers, if any, that we see either starting or coming in if for any injury reasons or red card reasons, God forbid. But I think if we are looking for opportunities to bring younger goalkeepers up through the ranks to the A squad, maybe not AFCON or World Cup qualifiers, but any other friendlies outside of that schedule might be a better opportunity to get them on the field.
Well, fun fact for you is the Moroccan team, we always have like at least one from the Botola as the goalkeepers.
Now we have two.
Now we have two. Oh, that's true because Tajwi joined Berkane. But like the Moroccan league is known to produce some good goalkeepers. So let's keep an eye on some prospect for goalkeepers.
Well, good to know. Botola Pro, we'll keep an eye on the top goalkeepers. Maybe we'll get the call up. All right, so moving into the defense, we've got Ashraf Hakimi, Nosser Mzraoui, Abdul Kabir Akbar, Yunus Abdel Hamid, Ashraf Dari, Naif Agert, Zakaria Al Wahdi, Mohamed Shibi, and Adam Aznou. Any thoughts on the defenders? Any surprises there?
A lot of surprises here. Kind of like don't agree that much with the coach on the selection of the defenders, especially with the center back. Feel like we're gonna encounter some problems in terms of center backs, especially with you know Naif Agred being out of his team, like his previous team. Now he moved to
From West Ham to Real Sociedad.
right to Sociedad for more minutes or to play to prove himself. What do you think about this transfer, by the way?
I think he was in a great position in the Premier League with West Ham. Last season, if I remember correctly, he had a lot of starts and a lot of really meaningful minutes, and he had a good partner in the center back position. Can't remember his name, but
In West Ham,
Zuma.
Yeah.
So he had a good pairing with Zuma. I don't know much about Real Sociedad and really too much of the rumors behind the transfer why he left West Ham. But I think it seems to be a little bit of a step backwards in terms of level.
Yeah, but in terms of minutes to play, it's good for him. Do you think Walid has any impact on that move?
That's an interesting point, and it could be a little bit of a controversial subject, as when Regragui was actually asked this in a press conference recently, if he has any impact or if he has any input on where players on the national team decide to play at the club level. I believe his response was along the lines of he hasn't interfered at all or hasn't given any guidance. He really just leaves it up to the players as it's their responsibility, depending on where they want to play and at what level.
My personal view, if you remember last time you talked to me about this move, I told you that I think it's gonna happen because Walid has a good connection in Sociedad. He used to play there, so I think he wants his players to be competitive because he got a lot of criticism about calling players that are not competitive. One of them is Naif Agret. So he wants them to be playing, so he kills those criticisms.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Something that we'll have to keep an eye on as the La Liga season progresses. And wishing all the best to Naif on his new club and his journey in La Liga. And as I look at this defensive list, two names stand out to me. Very strong right backs, and Ashraf Hakimi and Mazraoui, both of them playing at top tier teams in top leagues. Mazraoui recently getting the transfer from the Bayern Munich over to Manchester United, and Ashraf Hakimi, who just came off captaining the Olympic bronze medal Moroccan team and having a great start to the Ligue 1 season with PSG. I think these are two of the best right backs in the world, two of the most dynamic players that love to come up front and cause a lot of havoc in their opponent's defending third. Can you tell me a little bit more about this dynamic duo and who you might see starting in what position and why?
First of all, as Moroccans, we should be very proud of these two guys that are playing in the high level. Like Ashraf Hakimi, being the representative of Moroccans in the Champions League is not easy, and being that every year for many years we have to give a lot of respect to Ashraf Hakimi. Mazraoui, his move to Man United is also a very good move to play in a very competitive league, which is the Premier League. I like that move, even though I don't like the team that he joined.
Liverpool fan here.
I'm a Liverpool fan, but he started very well. He started very well, starting right back. So that means that we have two of the best right backs in one team. So now, how are we gonna use those two guys? I don't like to see Mazraoui in the left side, but I don't know what the coach is gonna do. And then I'm gonna. That's what you asked me about. What do I think about the defense? I think we have problem in the left side, but Mazraoui can play there. He can,
as he did at the 2022
right.
World Cup in Qatar.
That's what it seems to be his national team position. But personally, I don't like it because he's not a natural specialist in that position. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think both of them should be on the field at the same time. Obviously, they're both of their natural position is right back, and you want to see a player play in his natural position and excel. But for me, having someone of a different caliber playing the left back position is a disservice to our team because we have players that can play at a higher caliber, higher speed, and maybe a little bit smarter with more experience, even though it's not their true natural position. So for me, if I was Walid Regragui, I would start Ashraf Hakimi as a right back due to his able to play combinations with the people in front of him on the right, such as Brahim Diaz or El Khanous or whoever's playing the 10 to help get the triangle on the right. And then from a defensive standpoint and still being able to move the ball forward, I think Mazraoui can check those boxes on the left and help out El Zazuli or Ben Sgher or whoever else is playing winger on the left side. Because that is Mazraoui's biggest strength, in my opinion, is being able to help out his wingers and to bring the pace of play forward and to always look forward. He does great with aerial duels. And just because he's offensive minded doesn't mean he can't track back and make some good tackles and stop the opposing team from progressing into our final third.
I totally agree. I would love to see them both at the same time playing for the national team. But I have a different vision for me. Like, I can listen. Ashraf Hakimi also played in the left back. He played that for Dortmund, for Inter Milan. He also can do a great job over there. Um, I don't know. I can see Ashraf Hakimi more in the offensive line and keep Mazraoui on the right side, but that means that we should have like a proper left back. And in the list, the only proper natural left back I see here is, I guess, that the young lad, Adam Asno, played for Bayern Munich, but he never started for Bayern Munich. I was shocked to not see Atiyatullah, Yahya Atiyatullah, but I guess he had problem with his club in Russia and now he's moving to Egypt.
Yeah, he was with FC Sochi, I believe,
right.
And now I believe he's with an Egyptian team. Not sure if it's Zamalek or
Al Ahli. He moved to Al Ahli. But so, what do you think of the young lad?
Yes,
18 years old.
Adam Asnou, yes, 18-year-old Moroccan national playing for Bayern Munich. I don't believe he was called up to their A squad. He was playing some preseason fixtures with Bayern Munich. To be honest, I don't know much about him, but from what I hear and from what I see on social, he's a very dynamic and explosive player, but he's young. Obviously, the younger you are, the less experience you have. And when we're looking to play in Africa, I think experience is key. A lot of these fixtures, they're going to be playing against rough, big opponents. And at his age and with his experience level, it could be a challenge maybe the first few fixtures, but I don't see any reason why he can't fit in and gel with the rest of his teammates.
So you think he's going to get some minutes? For me, why we didn't have him go through the U17, the U23, and then Team A? He's just being called up straight to the senior level.
I wonder if there's a political motivation behind that. We have other players on the list who also just joined and went directly to the A team. So looking at the list, for example, Brahim Diaz, he never played at the youth level.
Right. So you think to take him from Germany, right?
I think it's more of a political kind of bringing him in through the federation as quickly as he can through the door. And if it's straight to the A team, getting him some fixtures, getting him some caps, so that he is barred from joining any other international squad.
Okay, well, hopefully he can get some minutes and see his talent.
You know, so looking through the rest of this defensive list, we see a lot of familiar names here. So, for example, Ashraf Dari was with us in 2022 for Qatar. He also was on the squad when we were playing AFCON down in Tanzania, was it?
Yes, I would love to see Dari paired with Naif Agrid. Now he moved to the biggest club of Egypt and Africa, which is Al Ahly. So I would love to see him paired with Naif Agrid because that's what I was talking about. That pair of center backs is very um, important. Now he's not calling safe anymore, I guess because of age. And with Shadi Riyad being, injured, we need to see a strong pair. So I don't think Yunus Abdul Hamid is a strong pair to be with Agrid because he showed like he's a little bit slow running back. But I think Ashraf Bari would make it a good pair to play with Naif Agrid.
All right. Well, we'll see what the coach decides to do over these next two fixtures. I agree with you that we are definitely feeling Shadi Riyad's absence with his injury during the Caribou Cup on his new club, Crystal Palace. So we wish him a speedy recovery and hopefully seeing him on the pitch again. Be exciting to watch more Moroccans as they join teams on the Premier League. A couple of updates there as we get forward a little further on the podcast, specifically in the midfield section. But any final or closing thoughts on the defense as it stands currently?
I think currently we need to try more players in different positions, namely the center backs. We need to have like um, we need to have options. We need to try as many as we can, even though we are qualified, but we need also to think about March. This is where the qualifiers for the World Cup have to happen. So we need to go and play there with a strong center back pair.
Yes. And a lot of time between now and March when we really need to solidify the squad list, especially the defense. I think hopefully the players coming back from injury and being able to see how they do at their clubs between now and then will give us a better idea of what the best pairings are at the center, the defensive midfield. I'm sorry, the center backs, and then again on the left and right side.
And then the only player I wish it was called upon is the Bukamir, is the guy who played the Olympics. He did a really good journey with the Olympic team, and he played really good center back alongside with Lazouzi. I don't know why he's not on the list, but hopefully, he's not injured. Hopefully, he can join because he did play very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to sum it up, there is a bit of a changing of the guard, if you will, on the defensive side of things, with the captain Sace out and a lot of these younger, newer faces in. But we are still anchored with some pretty solid experience and leaders in Naif Eged, Ashraf Hakimi, and Nusr Mazraoui. Great. So moving on now into the midfield, Coach Regragui called on Sofian Amrabat, Amir Richardson, Bilal El Khannous, Brahim Diaz, Usama Targhlin, and Asdin Unahi. Any surprises here?
I'm not surprised. I love this midfield. This is one of the best midfield in African teams. If we use them in a way where we can dominate the midfield, this is a very good midfield. I mean, if we're gonna talk about problems, yes, we can say that Unahi hasn't been playing, but we all know that he's a key player for Walid team, as he makes the link between Ashraf Hakimi and Hakim Ziyech on the right hand side. But he really needs a strong defensive midfielder, which is Soufiane Amrabat. He moved to Fenerbahce, right? What do you think of that move?
So he had been on loan from Fiorentina to Manchester United after the World Cup. Not the greatest close to the season for Manchester United in general, But as we got into the transfer window, and Amrabat was with Fiorentina, it was pretty clear that he would be moving on from there to where we were not sure at the time, but now it's clear that it's Fenerbahce. So the Turkish league is where he lands.
I'm playing for Mourinho. He will develop a lot of defensive skills. Like we all know Mourinho defensively, and in his position, I think he's gonna learn a lot from Mourinho. It would have been nice if he played alongside with Richardson, that he also moved to Fiorentina, but now he has to prove himself without Sufyan Amrabat. Richardson, I think his move to Fiorentina is a good move. I think he's gonna play in a strong league. The Italian league is very strong, and then you know, playing the Olympics, I watched him. He was really like class.
Very classy.
That guy can play with like a suit, and he
Reminds
was.
me of Busquets a little bit.
Yes, yes. But now playing with the senior team, do you expect or do you think we can see the same performance, especially playing in Africa?
I think he's very comfortable with the national team. He looks to the left, he looks to the right. There's a lot of familiar faces that he's played with through the ranks in the younger youth levels. Players like El Khanous, players like Targelin, players like who else am I missing here that he's played with at the youth level? Well, regardless, I think he's comfortable, and I think in the midfield, it's going to be tough for him to start over Amrabat. I think they play each other's positions. I don't really see him playing somewhere more forward than there. But I'm excited to see any minutes that he gets, how he can prove himself to be a consistent player, really good on the ball, and continue showing that class.
It's just for the midfield because we talk about Unahi not having a team for like basically almost a year. I'm thinking that Bilal Khanous can play in there, like especially now with Khanous being moved, to Leicester City and playing that role. I think he would excel. Do you think we can see him playing there, or you think we're gonna go with Unahi even if it doesn't play?
I think he would excel in that position, but we haven't really seen him play in that role. Typically, Kanouz comes in and plays kind of like a 10 in a way.
Well, now we have Diaz playing as a 10. So
supposedly, it
right.
could be that, or he could have him on the right. We don't know yet, which is another interesting conversation that we could have about the midfield. We have so many talented players that are playing at a high level that I see a lot of overlap from a positional standpoint. What do you think is the optimal configuration of the midfield given the squad list, knowing the strengths of these players? Where do you think the puzzle pieces fit?
So for me, Amrabat is a number 6, no doubt, right? Now, Unahi is very important to that team, but is he competitive enough? Is he fit? I don't want to risk it. I want to give him like some time to get back to shape with his new team, which he moved to Panathinaikos.
In the Greek
It's
league.
a Greek team, which is good. But I would prefer to not see him playing and see some other players playing in there because it's not always going to be him.
Okay.
Let's say he's injured, who's going to play there, right? I would love to see Khanous playing that. I mean, he played in the Olympic team.
Like an 8.
Right. So it's the same as Unahi played as an 8 too. I would love to see him there and see how he does. Otherwise, Diaz is more offensive and then more as like a team player, and then Osama Talghani can do that too. So we have a really nice midfield that the coach has to utilize in a way to be aggressive and offensive and score goals and create more chances, not to just be protective and scared.
Yeah.
Like the Olympic team did. They were very offensive. I love to watch that team.
They were very dangerous in the opponent's final third and in the half spaces. I'm excited to see what this midfield can do. One thing worth noting that I was surprised was the omittance of Emin Harit, who is in really good form with Marseille, starting most of his games, getting points, goals, and assists. Anything that you can make out of maybe why Unahi was included and Harit was excluded?
Knowing that they played for the same team, Olympic Marseille. But right, so this is a very political point in terms of like why Harit wasn't called to the team. But I think he has in the past made like a interview where he mentioned that he wasted time going with the national team to the African Cup because he didn't play, and that kind of comments is not hasn't been seen like a professional comment. So I think that's the reason why he wasn't called, because you just can't say that, you know, to a team that it's really, you are representing your national team and you have to show some respect. I think that's the reason why, because otherwise he's the main guy for Olympic Marseille. He's the one who played more. He's the one to create for that team, but he's not the one who's been called. So I think that's some, I don't want to say personal, but it could be just like not only between him and the coach, but like the whole federation like didn't like that comment. I think
Yeah.
that's why.
And I think that's a very important call out. Well, I'll leave you with one more question regarding this topic. If the rest of the Ligue 1 season progresses and Harit still, proves to be in top form and providing, offensive points, whether it's through assists or goals, and Unahi isn't necessarily top form in the Greek league, do you see a potential for a swap when he calls players for the March window?
I think knowing like the character of Waleed, I don't think it's about like his skills or if he's not playing well. I think maybe he need to apologize, come out. If that's the main, main reason or the main problem, he need to come out and clear the situation and apologize, because that's, I think, what everybody's expecting from Harit.
Well, that's a good closing remark on that midfield situation. We'll keep a close eye on those two players specifically. But before we move into the forwards, you did touch a little bit on Bilal Khanis's transfer from the Belgian league at Genk over to Leicester City in the Premier League. Very exciting transfer move for our Moroccan young stud. Rouina Bibela, as they
Naida.
say. Naida, Naida. So any words on that transfer or anything that we can expect? I know in his first game he played about 22 minutes. He had some good through balls. I think he was 15 for 15 with his passes, so very accurate. And played some meaningful minutes. Any thoughts on that transfer?
Um, I love that transfer. I think it's good for his career. It's a very competitive league that he's joining. He needs to work harder than like being player in the Belgium league. So that's in itself a motivation to grow, in terms of his skills, in terms of his physique. He needs to prove himself to continue playing in that team. So a lot of people would say, "Oh, it's just joining the Leicester City, a recent promoted team," but being there and trying to survive in the Premier League, it's really hard, and it's really in itself it's good for the player at his age, and as is like a move, it's very good to shape up his form and be very good for us as a national team. I think it's gonna be beneficial for him.
Yes, I agree, and it's going to be very exciting to watch. Definitely going to be cheering on Leicester City this season. So come on, you Foxes! Moving on here to the forwards. Hakim Ziyech, Ilyas Akhumash, Amin Adli, Sufyan Rahimi, Ayoub Al-Ka'bi, Yusuf Nasiri, Ilyas Ben Sghair, and Abd Samad Zilzouli. Maybe we can start with the wingers and then make our way up to the strikers and talk there.
Yes, very controversial point about Ziyech. I don't know. Do you have any introduction to that? Critics that we all hear.
Yes. Well, first a disclaimer. I am a little biased. I'm a huge Ziyech fan. Since his Ajax days, following him at Chelsea and Galatasaray as of late. As we know, Galatasaray has been eliminated from Champions League contention, and we know Ziyech loves Champions League. He lives for the Champions League. That is the European tournament, and that he wants to be a part of and show his level and show his skill. There's no doubt that he is a world class player, and he is a wizard, and he's great on the ball. I think the biggest questions around him right now are his current form, his fitness level, and health. I know he's been dealing with some injuries since the World Cup. I believe some hamstring issues or some knee issues, and now not really getting meaningful minutes in the Turkish league. So definitely some question marks there. Some of the other question marks I have are about the cohesiveness of the unit when he is on the field with Brahim Diaz and some of the other players. There's a lot of overlap, and sometimes it feels a little crowded up top. So I know we had some recent fixtures in June, the 6-0 win in the World Cup qualifiers against the Congo, and a 2-1 victory, I believe it was, against Zambia.
Where he played as a number 10.
Correct.
Instead.
Yes, there was a little bit of movement throughout the game where Wally changed a little bit of the positioning, and I think in the second half, after Ziyech was substituted out, he moved Diaz over to the right-hand side, and we saw a lot of movement and connectivity between him and Hakimi and some of the other players. So to you, I would say for now, yes, he should be a starter. He should be a captain on the team. For how long, I don't know. I think these next two fixtures are going to be really big in helping us determine the future of the cohesiveness of this specific unit and who should be where.
For me, as you said, he preferred to, and he loves the Champions League. I don't see him working enough to be in a Champions League. Like I'm seeing like the same pattern happen when he was with Chelsea. Like now, Galatasaray fans are going after him the same as Chelsea fans were doing years before. So, is he someone who doesn't, like to train, or like, I don't know? There's something that make the fans don't want him, and also teams don't want him. I don't know if Walid just protect him, but I don't see a national team being a babysitting team. I don't know. We have a lot of good players to be there, like Ahumas, for example. Ahumas, the competition he did in Paris, he can be there easily. He can take over that spot very easily. He's a very good player. He come inside, he can dribble, he shoot. Ziyech doesn't dribble anymore, and his style has been like the same. Take it by the sideline and cross it, and if the cross doesn't go, it can go back in a counterattack. It can go against you. So I don't know. And then when he played with Diaz, it didn't work out. Now we're moving him to number 10. I don't know. He has to step up. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree. I think there definitely needs to be some kind of a shift, not just in the mindset, but being open to playing a different role, maybe a different position on the field where he's going to help us the most. I still think on set pieces, he's very dangerous, especially from, anywhere from 30 in, as well as the corners. So he's our set piece guy for sure. It's just a matter of getting him playing and passing the ball and getting into the position that he needs to be in to help distribute to our strikers or even our wingers above him and to the side of him.
I mean, he's good for Ansari.
Yeah, for the aerial balls.
Long balls, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely something to be on the lookout for. As for the other wingers, on the left-hand side, to me, it seems like it's going to be a battle between Ben Srer and Zilzouli. Honestly, my opinion is Zizuli has done enough in the Olympics to show that he belongs in that position as a starter. But I know Ben Srer has a lot of preferential treatment also from Regragui. He continuously calls him up. He's been starting him. He's been putting him in high positions in the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does start Ben Sghir. But El Zazouli's been having a great season at Real Betis. He's got some goals. He had a good game against Real Madrid last week. Not to say that Ben Sghir hasn't been doing well in Monaco. They beat Barcelona early on in the season, the preseason, and they've been doing pretty well from what I can tell in Ligue 1. What do you think about the position, the left wing?
We have two very talented young lads over there. And I think Zazuli, as you said, I can see him regaining his confidence back. That was his problem after the World Cup, which he couldn't handle the pressure. But after the Olympics, he proved himself, and I think he deserved to be called. As controversially, Ben Sghir didn't do a good Olympics. So if I had to pick up now, I would pick up Zuli over Ben Sghir. But both of them have to, to compete very well to, to earn that position. They have to, non-stop, like continue playing high level, training every day. Like they have to earn that position. It's between them.
Yeah.
We don't have a third.
Adli is the one guy that we
Adli is
discounted
more
at Bayern
yeah.
Leverkusen. He has started in that position in the past, and he's playing in a top league in the Bundesliga. And I'm not sure if he's starting every fixture, but he does get some good starts over there under Xavi Alonso.
Right.
So there are a lot of pieces in that position with talent that we could choose from. They play very hard and fast, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was like a 60-30 minute split between two players. But if one of them does go down, we do have two others that could step in and fit in right away. So no problems in this moment in the left position.
I see that Adli play more in the center. Like, if he play 4-4-2, he can be the second striker alongside Ansari or El Kabi. Him and Rahimi, I think that's where they play. So I think Rahimi and Adli are the one to choose in between, and then Kabi and Sairi are the ones to make the decision who's gonna start. But what do you think about who's gonna start? Let's end this podcast with the
striker position.
No, like completely
the starting 11. Yeah. Well, starting from the back, I think Bunu for sure. Zarawi and Hakimi as the backs, with Egerd and I believe we said maybe Ashraf Dari in the center back position. I think that is your back five. And then in front of them, I think Amrabat and El Khanous, as well as Brahim Diaz in the midfield. And then on the wing, I think you're going to start with Ziyech on the right and either El Zazuli or Adli on the left. And then for striker, my pick is Rahim. Over the course of the Olympics, he proved to be a great striker. He was the top goal scorer of the tournament. Not all penalties either. He had some good goals that came off of rebounds or through counterattacks. He's a very dynamic player, plays very fast and hard, as well as our penalty taker. I don't think we have a better penalty taker on the squad than him at this point in time. So if you had to ask me, that would be the starting 11.
It's a strong team. Whoever you pick from this squad list is going to make a strong team. I have some players that, like, I would love to go with instead of your picks, but I would go with in goalkeeper Bruno, which is like no
debate.
No debates. Right back I go Hakimi, and left back I will go with Mazraoui. I mean, I don't want to risk it. Like that's our best combo. And then for the center backs, I would go with Ashraf Bari and Nate Agret. So
okay.
we agree on the back five. Amrabat as a defensive midfielder, and I want to see Khanous next to him and Diaz, but Diaz would play alongside with Akhumash instead of Ziyech. So I want to see Akhumash and Diaz combo.
Okay.
And then Zuli on the left side, and Rahimi on the front.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a pretty similar starting 11,
Yes,
with the exception of Ziyech and Ahmed.
Yeah.
How do you think Ziyech would react to being benched and not starting in these next two fixtures?
He should be professional. If he's not selected, he should know the reason why, and he should work on that and try to improve himself and gain his position back. Other than that, I don't think he should be called anymore because everybody has a expiration date. No, you don't like this, but it is your favorite player.
Hey,
right?
It's your opinion. I love to hear it. I might not agree with it, but it's important to hear. Do you feel the same? Do you share that sentiment about Nseri at the striker position, the same as what you said about Ziyech?
No, I like to have Ansari as an option because he provide a different different options. Like if you need somebody to play long balls, that's your guy, right? So, and then you're gonna tell me who's gonna give him those balls. So maybe Ziyech and him can be on the side until we need that, that strategy.
Some super subs.
Super subs, but I just don't want to see the team doing only the same thing. Like, oh, Ziyech cross Nsairi, inshallah, if happen or not. I want to see movement. I want to see, I want to see the same style that Tarek Skiti we play. I don't, with all respect to Walid, but I want to see more attack. He can do that. He has this generation to, to entertain us with some exciting football.
Yes, I agree with that sentiment exactly. I'd love to see a little bit more in the attacking third, a little bit more dynamic, fast-paced action. I think that plays to a lot of our players' strengths, and inshallah, that's exactly what we'll see tomorrow and on Monday. So thank you all for joining us on today's flagship experience or flagship episode. Hopefully we can come to you with a new episode next week following the fixtures against Gambia and Lesotho. But for now, thank you for joining us and supporting us. Please like and share and subscribe. And Dima Maghreb.
Dima Maghreb, thank you, Saad, for having me in your first episode of your podcast.
Always welcome.